Hello everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending upon when you are watching this video lecture. In the earlier session, we discussed about some of the MCQs related to the chapter of demand. Let us continue today with some more questions related to the law of demand and elasticity of demand. Yesterday, we discussed up to 19th question. Now, question number 20 is actually related to supply. We will come back to that later. Question number 21 is related to demand. So, we can solve that one. So, start with question number 21. Which of the following is an incorrect statement? So, these are very popular type of questions which will be asking about correct statements or incorrect statements. So, we need to be very clear with the question first. What we want is an incorrect statement, not the correct statement. So, out of the 4 below, there is one thing which is wrong, which automatically means there are 3 things which are correct. So, we need to identify the wrong one. So, which one is correct, which one is wrong is what we have to go through each of the statements. So, we have to be careful with such questions. You need to read very carefully all the options available. Let us see the point A here, what it says. When the goods are substitutes, a fall in the price of one, ceteris paribus means other things being equal, that's okay. That will be always there, no need to worry about that. So, a fall in the price of one leads to the fall in the quantity demanded of its substitutes. Is it true or false? We need to know that. That is true. Because when the goods are substitutes, if the price of one product is falling, the demand for that product will increase, and naturally the demand for the other substitute will decrease. So, when the price of one of the substitutes falls, the quantity demanded of the other substitute will also fall. That is option A, which is correct, but it is not the correct answer. Why? Because we want incorrect statement, not a correct statement. So, A is not the correct answer, but it is a correct statement. B, when commodities are complements, a fall in the price of one will cause the demand of the other one to rise. Same, that is also correct, because when the goods are complementary, one commodity's price, if it is falling, demand for that commodity will increase. Along with that, the demand for its complementary commodity also will increase. Hence, that will be definitely also correct statement, means incorrect answer. So, B we cannot keep it as a correct option, though the statement is correct. C, as the income of the consumers increases, the demand for the commodity increases always. The word used here is always. Is it so? No. In general, yes. In general, when the income of consumer increases, the demand for the commodities increases. When the income of the consumer decreases, demand for the commodities decrease. And vice versa means that both are okay. Both are correct, yes. But when? Not always. Only occasionally that is correct. So, can we say C is a correct statement? Absolutely no. So, what could be the answer here? Definitely C is the correct answer, since it is an incorrect statement because it is using the word always. See, this one word defines the answer here. But don't be again just jumping to the next question. Also make sure D is also a correct statement. Then only C is the correct answer. So, C is incorrect statement we think. Let us make it sure by also reading D and identifying it as a correct statement. Let us see that. When a commodity becomes fashionable, people prefer to buy it, and therefore its demand increases. Of course, yes. So, D is a correct statement. A and B are correct statements. So, definitely C is the only incorrect statement, which means that is the correct answer. That is question number 21. Then question number 22 is about computation of elasticity, price elasticity of demand using arc elasticity method. Now, usually we have to do these calculations on paper and we better use a calculator for that purposes. If the calculations are very small and simple, then you can do it directly. Otherwise, you need to be very careful in solving the number based questions, which are not so many in the economics paper, but there will be definitely some number based questions. Naturally, computation of elasticity of demand will be one of them, no doubt about it. Let us look at the facts of this case, that is in question number 22. Suppose the price of movies seen at a theater rises from 120 per person to 200 per person. That's what is happening. Price is increasing from 120 to 200. So there is a change in the price, increase in the price. Then the theater manager observes that the rise in the price causes attendance at a given movie to fall from 300 persons to 200 persons. So this is the data we need. Price increased from 120 to 200 and demand basically has decreased from 300 to 200. What is the price elasticity of demand for movies? That is the question. Using arc elasticity method, we have to solve this. For that, we need to first of all know the formula for arc elasticity method. Then we need to identify these numbers with their denotions. Then we can apply or substitute these numbers in the formula and get the answer. All these things ideally have to be done very quickly, but that is not possible just like that. You need to practice such questions. For that, you need to be writing down the formula also number of times. What does arc elasticity method talk? What is the formula for arc elasticity method? That we should first of all write down. Do that one now. So what is the formula for arc elasticity of demand? This formula you should know, that is Q1 minus Q2 divided by P1 minus P2 multiplied with P1 plus P2 divided by Q1 plus Q2. That is the formula for arc elasticity of demand. This formula you have to remember, there is no option. So write this formula number of times. If you are not remembering this well, that is one of the better techniques in remembering things, that is putting pen on paper and writing it number of times. Now let us apply this formula to the current scenario in question number 22. What happened here? The price has risen from 120 to 200 rupees and demand has fallen from 300 persons to 200 persons. So let us substitute these items in what they are denoting. So 120 rupees is original price, means P1. So in P1 place, let us write 120. And what is 200 here? That is P2. P2 is 200. Okay. Then what was Q1? Q1 was 300. Okay. So when Q1 is 300 and Q2 demand reduced to 200 persons. So finally, what is the answer here? That is 0.8, naturally minus, and we ignore the sign. If you look at the options, if the options has plus 0.8 and minus 0.8, then definitely it has to be minus 0.8. Then you cannot say I ignore the sign. No. If it is there. If it is not there, don't try to search for something because you will not find it. It is not there, negative sign in any of the options. But out of the options, what are there? Definitely for the 22nd question, the answer would be B, since the price elasticity of demand is 0.8. Naturally, it is negative, but that is ignored here. Only the absolute number is given as answer. That is 0.8 is the answer for question number 22. Same like that, many questions can be practiced. Question number 23. Let us look at this situation here. Suppose a departmental store has a sale on its silverware, and if the price of the plate setting is reduced from 300 to 200. So 300 to 200, the price has been reduced. And then what happened? The quantity demanded increased from 3000 to 5000. Then what is the price elasticity of demand is asking. Again, arc elasticity method is only asked. So all that you need to do is always the same. Go back to the formula, Q1 minus Q2 by P1 minus P2 multiplied with P1 plus P2 by Q1 plus Q2, and just substitute in those numbers what exactly each one is denoting. So our price, original price is 300 rupees. Change all these numbers. Of course, you have to do it on paper, not on the computer. You don't have that facility. On paper, write them. P1 how much, P2 how much, Q1 how much, Q2 how much, everything you have to write. P1 how much, P1 is 300, okay, fine. P2 how much, means the price reduced now, so 300 to it has become 200, so that is P2. Then what is Q1? Q1 originally was 3000, and how much is Q2? That is 5000, where the demand has further increased. So what is the price elasticity of demand? Just substitute and do the math. You have to do it. So substitution and just calculating it on the calculator, that you have to do. So finally, what is the answer here? Naturally 1.25. So for 23rd question, answer would be C. Just all that you need to do is identifying correct number. How much P1, Q1, P2, Q2, you have to identify correctly, then substitute in this formula and get the answer. So you need to practice these questions very well. That's very important model in the examinations also. That was question number 23. Then question number 24, when the numerical value of the cross elasticity between the two goods is very high, when it is very high, then what? So what is the nature of cross elasticity when the numerical value is very high, he says. Numerical value only he is saying, he is not talking about the sign, numerical value only he is saying. So when that is very high, what does it mean? Can we say that the goods are perfect complements which can be or which have to be used together? So there is no relation between the numerical value of the cross elasticity and the goods being perfectly complement. So perfectly complement goods need not have a very high numerical value of cross elasticity. That is not possible. So that cannot be taken as a measure. So the point also we have to note, in case of cross elasticity, if it is perfectly complement, in that case it will be negative, and whatever the value of that may be, definitely it cannot be just having a high number. So for substitutes we can say, if the cross elasticity is high number, then there is a very close substitutability. For example, if cross elasticity is 0, then there is no substitutability at all, means goods are completely unrelated, we can say, if the cross elasticity is 0, not at all related with each other. If the cross elasticity is positive, we can say that it is substitute. If it is very high, we can say that the substitutability is also very high. If they are perfect substitutes, then it will be infinite. But the point is, if the cross elasticity is negative, as we already discussed earlier, we cannot with confidence say that it is because the goods are complements only. For substitutes, we can always say that if there is a complementary commodity, generally the cross elasticity will be negative, but vice versa we cannot say always. If a particular set of goods is having a highly negative cross elasticity, can we say that it is just because of they being complements? No, that is not possible. So that is why whenever we talk about cross elasticity, substitutes we can say with confidence, whereas for complements we cannot always say that it is because of the nature of the goods. So we cannot conclusively say that the goods are perfect complements. That is not correct. Just because the numerical value of the cross elasticity is high, we cannot conclude this A statement. Not possible. But once again, is it possible? Yes. But can we conclusively say no? So that is the difference between substitutes and complements. So A is not a correct answer just because it cannot be conclusively said to be correct. There could be other reasons also where the numerical value of cross elasticity is high, even though they are not perfect complements. That is what we have to understand from A point. Then B says the goods are perfect substitutes. See, perfect substitutes is okay, but if they are perfect substitutes, then the cross elasticity will not be just high, it will be infinity. So we cannot say they are perfect substitutes. If they are perfect substitutes, then cross elasticity would have been infinite, not high, almost maximum possible. How much is that also we don't know. That's what is infinite. So B also does not look like a correct answer. But look at point C. There is a high degree of substitutability between two goods. Can we say that? Yes, we can say that. Because higher the numerical value of the cross elasticity, naturally higher the degree of substitutability also. So conclusively, which can be the correct answer? C is the correct answer. If the numerical value of cross elasticity is very high, we can say that there is a high degree of substitutability between the two goods. But the same cannot be told about complements. And by the way, perfect complements and perfect substitutes will have infinitely positive or infinitely negative cross elasticity, but not high. When we say high, it is a number which is definable number. But A and B both are actually not definable. Those will have infinite cross elasticity. That is why they cannot be the correct answers. C is only the correct answer. That is one point. And of course, complements always cannot be conclusively said also just by looking at cross elasticity. So that also is another point. So keeping all those points in mind, C is the correct answer for question number 24. D also you can just have a look at that. It should be wrong. The goods are neutral and therefore cannot be considered as substitutes. No, if they are neutral, then the cross elasticity will be 0. If they are not at all related, then 0 cross elasticity will be there. So D also is wrong, cannot be called as correct answer. So correct option for question number 24 could be only C. That is 24. Then 25, once again arc elasticity is asked. If the local pizzeria raises the price of a medium pizza from 60 to 100, quantity demanded falls from 700 pizzas to 100 pizzas. What is the price elasticity of demand? Once again, you have to do the same math. Formula, substitute, answer. And what was the original price? Original price was 60 rupees. So P1, 60. And what was the P2? That is 100. What was Q1? Originally, how many pizzas they used to sell? 700. Quantity demanded was 700. That is Q1. Now it got reduced to 100. Almost 100 pizzas only the quantity. Q2 is 100. So P1, Q1, P2, Q2, all we have substitute in this formula and you will get an answer of -3. And naturally, since it is not there and we ignore the negative sign for elasticity of demand, for 25th question, the option would be D, Delhi. That is 3. That is the price elasticity using arc method. Okay, that is 25th question. D is the correct option. Then 26th question, if the electricity demand is inelastic, he says it is inelastic, then when the electricity charges increase, which of the following is likely to occur? Always it has to be likely only. Nobody can conclusively say, oh, this will occur, that will occur. We are not talking science here. This is a social science. Anything can happen practically. But what is more possibly which can happen, that is what we are focusing on. How can it happen only like that, sir? It will not happen only like that all the times in all countries, all places, not necessarily. But generally, general tendency will be what is the question. So what is this here question about? Inelastic demand it has. That means, what does it mean? First you should understand. Inelastic means what? A product is inelastic means what? There is no impact of the price on the demand of that product. That's what it means. So even though there is a increase in the electricity charges, what will happen? First you should know the answer, then you can search for the options. When the product, whatever it is, electricity is just a name here. You should not focus on that much. Some product, any product, A, B, C, D, we don't care. So any product that is inelastic and its price increases, what happens? The demand does not change much. Even if it changes also, it changes very small amount only. That's what it happens. So let us look at the options. The quantity demanded will fall by a relatively large amount. No. If that is the case, then we call it a elastic product. So it will not fall by a relatively large amount. The quantity demanded will fall by a relatively small amount. Yes, that is correct. That is going to be happening definitely. When the price of the electricity rises, there might be a little bit reduction in the quantity demanded, but it will be very small amount. Why? Because it is not very elastic product. That is option B, correct answer for question number 26. And C and D options are actually nonsensical options. Rise in short run, fall in long run, fall in short run, rise in long run. Nobody said that. Don't try to create new theories. There is no such theory like, if this is the case, there will be some kind of change in the short run and some kind of change in the long run. Nothing like that is there. So we should not unnecessarily create new things which are absolutely rubbish. And one more point also always we have to keep in mind. There is no necessity that all 4 points are always meaningful. Definitely the answer should be meaningful, and we sometimes can find unnecessary statements, ridiculous statements, stupid statements. All these things can be found sometimes. So we should not get misled by that. And we should not waste our time on that thing. That is a problem. A lot of times some students will spend more time on the unnecessary things. So naturally that time will be wasted, energy will be wasted, actual focus will get misled. That should not happen. So ultimately this C and D both are useless options. There is nothing like that. No theory is like that. So we cannot say about electricity. See, the point is nobody is interested in your understanding of the electricity demand. No, that is not the objective here. Objective is whether you understand the theory of demand. Electricity is just one example in this question. So don't try to enter into the real situational mode of maybe it can happen also now, it can also happen. Anything can happen. But anything can happen is not an answer, right? We have only 4 options. Out of that, we have to choose one option. That is our limitation. So we have to keep that in mind always. So once again, I'm repeating, if it is a social science like economics, everything and anything is possible only, but some things are more possible, some things are less possible. So what is more possible? That's what we call it a theory. That's what we give it a little bit of shape and scientific nature to that. And then we say, yes, this is what generally going to be happening in the society. That does not in any way mean there are no other possibilities. There will be infinite possibilities always. That limitation has to be kept in mind while learning economics. Otherwise, unnecessarily, it will create problem in our brain. Nothing will happen. Unnecessarily, we will complicate the things rather than simplifying it. Complicating is not learning. Learning is about making it simple and understanding everything in a very simplistic manner rather than making it very complex. So that is a basic difference we need to also identify between normal sciences like chemistry or something else and economics. For example, if you take any mathematical formula or chemistry, for example, always if I do the experiment, you do the experiment, the result will be still the same. H2O is always going to be water. If you mix it, it will be water. If I mix it, it will be something else. No, it will not be. It will be always water only. But that will not be the case with social sciences. So that is a difference always there. So here 2 plus 2 is 4. We know that. That is mathematics. It is always 4. There cannot be different arguments on that. 2 plus 2 is always 4. That is mathematics. But in social sciences, 2 plus 2, we cannot exactly say it will be always 4. Maybe it is sometimes a little bit bigger than 4, sometimes it is a little bit lesser than 4. So all those maybes and may not be's will come here. We should not get distracted by them. That is the point. Those are facts. Those will be there, and that they should not mislead us. We should have confidence. We should have clarity on each and every item that we are learning. That is our purpose. Ultimately, the confidence with which we solve the questions should increase while learning. That is the purpose of any learning process. Same here, what is happening now also. Anyway, question number 27. Suppose the demand for meals at a medium priced restaurant is elastic. So here the product is meals, whatever it may be. but the nature of that is elastic. And if the management of the restaurant is considering of raising the prices, so raising prices for elastic product, what happens? Definitely there will be a large fall in the quantity demanded or in the demand. So this is where once again the words will become important. Should we use quantity demanded or should we use demand? We should use here quantity demanded only. Why they used quantity demanded here, that is none of our business. That is none of our business. They use anything. That is the question. They are asking the questions. We are answering. That our position is that. So in this question, there are only possibilities, two things. One, we can say there is a large fall in quantity demanded. Two, we can say there is a large fall in demand. Why large? First of all, because the product is elastic. Definitely it will not be a small fall. If the product was inelastic, then there would be a small fall. But here there will be definitely a large fall. Only point is whether we use the word quantity demanded or whether we use the word demand. For this purpose, we have been distinguishing these two words. Wherever required, not every time and every minute we have to distinguish, not necessary. But wherever required, we should definitely distinguish them. What is the distinction? We already know. Quantity demanded is the word used when we talk about prices, and demand is the word used when we talk about other factors other than price. So here, what is the best thing? Demand is impacted by what here? It is impacted by price. So definitely the better word is quantity demanded. So answer is A for 27th question. Then 28th question asks about point elasticity. In which of the following situations there will be point elasticity method useful? Answer is some practical situations are given, but we should know the technical answer first. When point elasticity can be used? Naturally, when the changes are very small, when the impact of the price on the demand of the product or quantity demanded of the product is very small, then point elasticity can be used. So that is why, which of the following cases will have a very small impact? Let us see that. A, first point says the bookstore is considering doubling the prices of notebooks. Doubling is not small, doubling is huge, almost increase by 100%. So that is not going to be correct or appropriate to use point elasticity method here. Once again, sir, can't we use? We can use, we can do anything, but it is not suitable. Point elasticity is used and point elasticity is suitable when the changes are small. Doubling is not small, that we should identify. Then same way, here a restaurant is considering lowering the price of its most expensive dishes by 50%. 50% is also not small, definitely it is a big number. So we cannot say that point elasticity is a best method in this case. Then point number C says an auto producer is considering or interested in determining the response of consumers to the price of cars. Look at here, what is the product here? Cars, lowered by 100 rupees. Imagine, car price reduced by 100 rupees, what impact it will have on the demand? 100 rupees is going to really create any impact? No, not at all. It's very small impact. So out of these three, which one is having a very small impact? C is having a very small impact. Increase by 100%, increase or decrease by 50% cannot be called small, but just decreasing the price of car, that too. If the price of a burger is decreased from 150 rupees to 100 rupees, that's a different story. That is a huge decrease. But car already into lakhs of rupees, just to decrease by 100 rupees looks very small. That we should have a judgment on. It is small definitely. When it is small, then the best method to use there is point elasticity. That is why correct option for 28th question will be C. Okay, that is the correct answer for 28th question. Then 29th question. A decrease in the price will result in an increase in total revenue. So once again, very important model, already I told you. This is total expenditure method or total revenue method that we need to apply. The total revenue is increasing, he says, and because of what it is increasing total revenue? Because of a decrease in price. Means, what is the nature of the product here? First of all, that we should know. What is the nature of the product? Is it an elastic product or an inelastic product? That has to be first of all known. When will this happen? Price is decreased, total revenue has increased. When will that happen? You need to remember that. The table already I showed you. That was discussed earlier. Total expenditure method or total revenue method or total outlay method. Either way, any of the words can be used for that. So when these two are related inversely, price is decreased, total revenue has increased. When can that happen? Only when the product is elastic. That we should know first. That answer we should know first. But it may not be directly given here. It may be expressed in a different way. Go through the options one by one. First option says percentage change in quantity demanded is, not in, this should be is that is. So is less than the percentage change in price. That means the product is inelastic. But is it the answer? No. The percentage change in quantity demanded is greater than the percentage change in price. Yes, elastic. That means it is elastic. Then only a decrease in price will result in an increase in total revenue. That's what happens when the product is elastic. That we should know. When the product is inelastic, then the relationship will be different. Here, if the price is decreased, then total revenue also will decrease along with that if the product was inelastic. So A is talking about inelastic, C is also talking about inelastic, B is talking about the product being elastic. So the percentage change in quantity demanded is greater than percentage change in price. That is the correct option, B. C definitely is not, A definitely is not. Look at this D, once again, stupid things, just like that. The consumer is operating along a linear demand curve at a point at which the price is very low and the quantity demanded is very high. At a point where the price is very low and the quantity demanded is very high, he says. So when the price is low, quantity demanded is high, once again, if at all, you have to understand this from an elasticity point of view. What does it mean? Price is low, quantity demanded is high. That means definitely we are talking about a lower price elasticity. For this, again, if at all, we need to understand this D point, though it is not required because already we got the answer, but just for understanding purposes. If at all you see that. So what is the point elasticity demand formula? Lower segment by upper segment, right? So where the price is low, quantity is high means this should be low, this should be high. So let us say this point, for example, price is low and quantity demanded is high. That is where it is. If that is the case, what will be the elasticity of demand? Elasticity of demand will be definitely less than 1. We know that. Less than 1. So if that is less than 1, if the elasticity of demand here is less than 1, that means the product is also inelastic. So ultimately D point is also telling that the product is inelastic. A is also telling that the product is inelastic, and C is also telling the same thing directly. D is also telling the same thing but indirectly. So if at all, this also if we identify, the meaning conveyed ultimately is that it is an inelastic product. But that is not the case. When there is a decrease in the price which results in the total revenue increase, that means the product is not inelastic, that means the product is elastic. And when it is elastic, the percentage change in quantity demanded should be definitely greater than the percentage change in price. So that is the 29th question, option is B. Then 30th question, increase in the price will result in an increase in the total revenue. Once again, increase in the price, increase in the total revenue, both are going in same direction. Here what was happening? Decrease in the price, increase in the total revenue. So when the product will be elastic, when these two are in opposite direction. When the product will be inelastic if both are in same direction. What are those both? One is price, one is total revenue. What is happening here? Both are going in same direction. One is increasing, the other one is also increasing. That means the product is inelastic. In out of all these things, which is telling that, let us say, A says the percentage change in quantity demanded is less than the percentage change in price, naturally, correct, no? So that is definitely the answer. So what does A mean? It means the product is inelastic, and that's what exactly the nature of an inelastic product. If there is an increase in the price of an inelastic product, it will increase the total revenue. So answer is A. So naturally B, C, D should be telling what? About elasticity, about elastic products. Naturally B also says the same. Percentage change in quantity demanded is greater than percentage change in price. No. If that is the case, it is elastic. So it is not fitting. C is also talking about elastic product. The consumer is operating along a linear demand curve at a point where the price is very high and quantity demanded is very low. Price is high, quantity demanded is low. So once again, same way, if we draw this just for understanding purposes, where the price is high but the quantity demanded is very low, means somewhere here it will be price is high here, quantity demanded is very low here. So what will be there in this case? Then definitely the elasticity of demand here will be greater than 1. In the earlier case it was less than 1. So it was also a wrong answer. This is also a wrong answer. These are opposite answers actually, which is not correct. Incorrect options those are. So that is about 30th question. Correct option is that product is inelastic. If the product is inelastic, percentage change in quantity demanded is less than percentage change in price for sure. So A is the correct option for question number 30. Then question number 31, demand for a good will tend to be more elastic if it exhibits which of the following characters or characteristics. So is asking about when a particular commodity might have more elasticity. When it can have more elasticity is asking. Possibilities is giving. One, first possibility, it represents a small part of the consumer income. If that is the case, will the product be more elastic? Definitely not. Say for example, salt. It will not be elastic. It is a small part of the consumer's income, matchboxes and all. No. So A is not the correct answer. B, the goods has many substitutes available. Yes. Then the product will be definitely more elastic. Something like Pepsi and Coca-Cola. Because they have very close substitutes and they have many substitutes if at all. Like some products may have many substitutes also in number. And in that case, substitutability is very high. Elasticity also naturally will be very high, because the customers have option to shift from this product to another product easily. So when the price of one product increases, then immediately the quantity demanded for that product will decrease because the customers shift to some other product. When that can happen? When it is a substitute. So correct option should be B, but we should also make sure C and D are wrong answers. If it is necessity definitely will not be more elastic, because necessity anyway you have to consume whether the price is high or low. So generally that will not be the case. And D is a very little time for the consumer to adjust to the price change. In that case, will it be more elastic? No, generally not. When there is a more time available, then definitely there will be more elasticity. If there is a little time, because consumers cannot adjust themselves in the shorter period of time, so then also we cannot say it is more elastic. So what is possible? When the good has many substitutes, then only there is a possibility that a demand for good will be tended to be more elastic. That's it. Same way, 32nd question also similar. The demand for a good will tend to be more inelastic when? Inelastic when? Naturally the opposite. If the good has many substitutes, will it be inelastic? No, it will not be inelastic, it will be elastic. If the good is a luxury, will it be inelastic? No, it is going to be elastic then also. If the good is a small part of the consumer's income, yes, then the goods definitely are going to be inelastic. And same way, if there is a lot of time available for the consumers to adjust to the price changes, then the product will show high elasticity. It will not be inelastic. So that's why 32nd question, correct option would be C. When the good is occupying only a small portion of the consumer's income, then we can say that product is inelastic. That is 32nd question. 33rd question. Suppose a consumer's income rises, income we are talking, from 30,000 to 36,000 rupees, and as a result the consumer increases her purchase of compact discs, whatever they are. Nowadays compact discs are anyway outdated. So let us just take it as an example. We don't care about the products and people's names and all that. What matters to us is amounts. Income increased from 30 to 36,000. Okay. Then what happened later? The consumption or purchase or demand, whatever you can call, increased from 25 to 30 CDs. What is the consumer's income elasticity of demand for CDs? He is asking. Income elasticity of demand. So what will be the difference here? Arc elasticity method only we have to use. But what should be the names now? Instead of price, we can say incomes. So you can use any word. So let us conveniently use Y, income here. So Q1 minus Q2 divided by Y1 minus Y2. So same way, instead of price here also, what is changing is income. Y1 plus Y2 divided by Q1 plus Q2. So what we changed here, P1 has been changed to Y1 and P2 has to be changed to Y2. Remaining things are same, substitution is same. So let us understand how much is the original income, Y1. Y1 original income was 30,000, okay, substitute it. And Y2 how much? That is income increased from 30 to 36,000, so that has changed, substitute that. Then what happened? Demand 25 Q1, original demand was 25, then Q2 was 30. So what is going to be the income elasticity of demand for the CDs? Naturally it is going to be 1. So B would be the correct answer for 33rd question. Everything is same. Formula only for denotions purposes you change from earlier we tested the impact of price on the demand. Now we are testing the impact of income on the demand. That's all. So there is nothing new. Directly we can substitute in the similar formula and get the answer, that is 1 is the income elasticity of demand for this particular consumer. So that was the 33rd question. After that, there are many questions which are related to consumer behavior, also supply, which of course we will discuss later. So let us just go to some of the questions only which are related to demand. So we can look at this question number 51. 51 question is, conspicuous goods are also known as what? Prestige goods? Yes. Snob goods? Yes. Veblen goods? Yes. So the correct answer is all of the above. That is the direct answer. They create a snob effect. Sometimes they can be called prestige goods also. Only for show off purposes those are used. Something like diamonds. So that is what we can say. Answer for 51st question is D, Delhi. Then 52nd question. The quantity purchased remains constant irrespective of the change in income. Means what? There is no change in the quantity purchased at all, even though there was a change in the income. That means there is no relationship between the demand and income at all. Then definitely what is the direct answer? Zero income elasticity of demand. Naturally, there is no income elasticity at all. Income elasticity is zero. No impact of income is there on the demand of that product. Then we say it is zero income elasticity of demand. Answer is C here for question number 52. Then question number 53. 53 is about a situation where the income is increasing and the consumer will go on for superior goods, and consequently the demand for the inferior goods will fall. Inferior goods is falling. And why this happens and what does it indicate, he says. Naturally, when it indicates inferior goods, it indicates you can say giffen goods, where because of the income of the consumers increasing, they are not going to buy the inferior goods anymore. They are going to shift to superior goods. What can we say that? Can we say income elasticity of demand is less than 1? No. But can we say income elasticity of demand is negative? Yes. That's what it is. Less than 1 is not negative, by the way. Less than 0 is negative. Understand the difference? Don't jump to answer option A. Less than 1 means not negative. Less than 0 means negative. So when the income elasticity of demand will be negative? Naturally when the goods are inferior goods. That is the exact case he is talking about here. So 53rd question answer is B, Bombay. Then 54th question. When income increases, the money spent on the necessities of life may not increase in the same proportion. It will increase, but it may not increase in the same proportion just because income is increasing. Just income has increased, nobody is going to eat double rice. Not possible. But a little bit may be increased, yes, possible. So what can we say from that? Directly we can straight away, we can say that the income elasticity of demand is less than 1. The option is D here directly. Income elasticity of demand is less than 1. That's what we can say. There is an increase, but that increase is very small. So less than 1 income elasticity is there. That means this particular product is less elastic. That's what we can conclude. When there is an increase in the demand because of increase in the income, but still that increase is not a big increase, it is only a small increase. That clearly means income elasticity is less than 1. That is question number 54. Then question number 55 says about luxury goods like jewelry and fancy articles. Generally, luxury goods like them, what will they have? Will they have a high income elasticity of demand or low income elasticity of demand? That's what we have to identify. Something like fancy articles, jewelry type, luxury goods, whatever they are. These are examples. Don't just take them too literally. Some luxury goods are there. Will they have high income elasticity or low income elasticity? When the income increases, will the demand for them will increase or not? Definitely it will increase heavily. That is why they are having high income elasticity of demand. So question number 55, correct answer is B, Bombay. They will have high income elasticity of demand. How can we say that? Because when the income increases, demand for these type of products also will increase, luxury goods. So we can also call sometimes these type of commodities as a discretionary spending. So that's what is a popular word. Cars also, for example, their demand will be only when it will be high, when the income of the people is high, then only. If the income of the people is low, the demand for the automobile is very low. So that is the nature of them. So they will have definitely high income elasticity of demand, yes. Low, no, definitely not. Zero, definitely not. They will be definitely impacted by the incomes, that too heavily. So B, Bombay is the correct option for question number 55. Then question number 56 is a direct question also. A good which cannot be consumed more than once. What can we call that? Can we call that a durable good? Definitely not. It can be called as a non-durable good. Yes, quite possible. We can call that a non-durable good. Like milk, for example. You just consume it once. Once it is consumed, done. It cannot be consumed again and again. So that is a non-durable good we can call it. Definitely is not a producer good. It is not a durable good. It is a non-durable good. Out of the options, B definitely looks like the correct option. So 56th question, correct answer is B. And then what is the relative price? Relative price is not relative cousins and all that relative. No, relative means comparative price. Comparative price means what? What is the relative price? When compared with the other product, what is the price of a product? It is called as relative price. Relative means always comparative. So is it the price expressed in terms of money? Of course, every time price is expressed in terms of money only, nothing special there. What you get paid for babysitting your cousin? No, not that relative. Don't mistake the word relative in that sense. So this is rubbish answer, what I mean to say. B are the type of questions they will be giving for distracting our attention. Be careful with such options. Useless, time waste options, those are all. No meaning in that. C, the ratio of one money price to another, yes, that's what is a relative price. Relative means comparative price. Price of one product in comparison with another one, that's what is relative price. So there is no special requirement of knowing it. It is just a common sense application, and the words you have to understand. Relativity, what does it mean? Objectivity, what does it mean? These words are important to be remembered. They will help us in answering such questions. The ratio of one money price to another price. Money price means price, once again. Price is always expressed in terms of money only in normal circumstances. We are not in barter system. So definitely price is always expressed in terms of money. So we can call that money price also. So one money price compared with another money price is what is a relative price. That's it. So that's what is the relative price generally we can say. So some of the points again still related to demand are given here. That was question number 57. Then what is question number 59? 58 is again a different one. We'll come to that later. Question number 59. What is demand? A lot of things are given here. What is demand? Is the desire for a commodity given its price and those of its related commodities. Looks okay, but we cannot conclude it directly. We have to still look at other options. B says the entire relationship between the quantity demanded and the price of a good, other things remaining the same. Yes, this is what exactly we are talking about. That's what demand is, right? Relationship between the quantity demanded and the price of the good. That's what is demand. Willingness to pay for a good if income is larger enough is not complete statement about demand. Ability only is not complete statement about demand. All may be correct, but they are not completing the statement. They are only partly correct. Fully correct statement is what? B, Bombay. Entire relationship between the quantity demanded and the price of a product, other things remaining the same. Perfectly, that matches with what is demand. That is question number 59. The answer is B. Then question number 60. What it says, if as people's income increases, the quantity demanded of a good decreases, then what can we call that? Naturally, that good is a inferior good. Inferior goods only it will happen, right? They'll have negative income elasticity. Income increases, the demand for them will decrease. So once again, this is what I was talking about. How can they use quantity demanded here? We are not the ones to decide that. So let it be. Just leave it. It should be ideally demand, yes. When income we are talking, we should not use the word quantity demanded. But if they use it, what we can do? We have to just go with that. So we should not be unnecessarily doing too much of audit here. Audit, there is a lot of time in future for that. So here, main thing is, what is the purpose of the question? What is the answer? There our focus should be. So as the people's income increases, the demand for a particular good decreases. When it will happen? Naturally, if the product is a inferior commodity, then only it will happen. So that is the answer for 60th question, that is C. Then 61st question, some practical examples types things are given. 61st question, question number 61. The price of tomatoes increases and people buy tomato puree. You infer that the tomato puree and tomatoes are what? Don't go by their names. Again, go by the nature. When the price of one product, whatever it may be, tomato, potato, we don't care. So if one product's price increased and the demand for other product also increased, when will that happen? Naturally, when the goods are substitutes, then only it will happen. So naturally, these two goods are substitutes. That's it. We should not go once again with the descriptions much. We should go with the nature of the commodities. This tomato puree, what is puree? All these things do not matter. We don't care. I don't like tomato sometimes. Yeah, no problem. That doesn't matter. We need marks here. We just need to understand any product given. We should not be having any kind of attachment to that product psychologically. Just leave it. That's all. Just A, B, that's it. So tomatoes, A, tomato puree, B. Price of A increases. Demand for B increases. How is it possible? When A and B are substitutes. That is where our thought process should be. Question will give 100 unnecessary things. Our focus should not be there. We should not waste time on those things. That is the point. To be always noted, particularly in economics, that always happens also. So be careful in answering these questions without any importance or relevance given to the products. Only give the relevance or importance to the theory, not to the descriptions given in the question. Same with next one, chicken and fish are substitutes. Okay, I don't like chicken, fish, I am vegetarian. Doesn't matter, nobody is asking us to eat. It's only a question. So chicken and fish are substitutes, let them be. Then if the price of the chicken increases, so we don't care actually, so it can be C and F also, it can be A and B also, any two products are substitutes. And price of one product increases, demand for the other product, what happens? When the price of one product increases, the demand for other product also will increase. That is what we are talking about just now. When they are substitutes, definitely they will have a direct relationship. Price of one increases, the demand for other also will increase. That is for sure. Where is the answer? Let us see. Option A says increase or decrease. No, there itself it is wrong. Increase or decrease we cannot say. Definitely it will increase. Then B, increase and demand curve for the fish will shift rightwards. Yes, definitely. That's what happens. When we say increase in demand, what happens to the demand curve? It will shift rightwards. So B definitely is the correct option. C says it will not change. No, that is wrong. D says it will decrease. No, that is also wrong. So what is the correct option? When the goods are substitutes, Price of one increases, the demand for other commodity will increase. When it increases, the demand curve for that commodity will shift rightwards. Why rightwards? Because we are talking about the impact of the price of substitute on the demand of the original product. We are not talking about price. If the change is in price, there will not be a shift in the demand curve. If the change is in any other factor other than price, there will be a shift in the demand curve. In this case, because it is an increase, the curve will shift rightwards. Okay, that is the answer for question number 62. Then question number 63, once again a little bit practical type question, but doesn't matter. Don't even worry about those descriptions at all. Potato chips and popcorn are substitutes. How can they be substitutes? We don't care. Some A and B are substitutes. That's all. A rise in the price of potato chips means one particular substitute's price has been increased. What happens? Will dash the demand for popcorn. So naturally what happens? When there is an increase in the price of the potato chips, what happens to the demand for the popcorn? Naturally, the demand for popcorn also will increase, and the quantity of the popcorn will be also increasing naturally. So that's why both are same. Don't worry. What is this quantity here we are talking is overall number of sales, we can say. When demand increases, that also increases. So both will increase. That's it. So A is the correct option for question number 63. Demand will increase, quantity of popcorn also will increase. Demand itself is a quantity. Naturally, both will increase. So there is no different relationship between demand and quantity here. Both are same. If that increases, this also increases. Both are same. So that is also unnecessarily given for confusing, for drawing and dragging us into unnecessary thought and naturally coming out with wrong options. That's what some people do. Should not happen. Should be very crystal clear about what is the question here. Question is about substitutes. Price of one substitute increases, demand for the other product also increases. Along with that, the quantity of the other product also will increase naturally. So answer is A. Then question number 64. If the price of the orange juice increases the demand for apple juice, what happens? We have to here believe that orange juice and apple juice are substitutes, though it is not given. Generally, such type of questions should not be given in the exam, but if they are given, we cannot help it. It is not in our hands. So we need to just assume that orange juice and apple juice are substitutes. If the price of one increases, demand for other also will increase because they are substitutes in general. So A is the correct answer for question number 64. How can it be? How can orange juice and apple juice be substitutes? That will not have any answer. If they are not substitutes, you come out with another answer. How can we prove that they are not substitutes also? Not possible. It's not about our tastes and preferences. It is not about our whims and fancies. In general, are they not substitutes? Yes, they look like substitutes. So definitely, when the price of one substitute increases, the demand for other substitute will also increase. So the correct option for 64th question will be A. Then question number 65. An increase in the demand for computers. Increase in the demand for computers. The other thing remaining same, of course, will, what happens? Increase in the number of computers bought. Demand has increased. That means increase in the number of computers bought will happen or not. That is one possibility. Second, that definitely happens, possible, but we cannot directly jump to conclusion with the answer. Maybe there is a better answer. Second one says decrease in the price, but increase in the number of computers bought. No, demand will not change the price automatically. So when there is an increase in demand, price will not be decreased at all. That is not possible. So B cannot be told to be correct. C says increase in the price of the computers. Might happen, but again, only that is part of the question, not fully correct. Then what might happen here? Increase in the price, also increase in the number of computers bought. That can happen. That is quite possible. So when there is an increase in demand, price will increase and the number of computers bought also will increase. Both will increase. So that is why the option for that is D, Delhi. That's the possibility which can happen when there is an increase in demand. So now because the topic has come, we need to understand one logic here. Normally, when we say price and demand, how they are related, we say they are inversely related. But here we have to understand, we are talking about the impact of price on the demand. So impact of price on the demand is what? When price increases, demand decreases, we know that. Or when price decreases, When price decreases, demand increases. That also we know. So definitely this is what demand theory is all about. But this is all the impact of price on the demand, which is inverse relationship. Price increases, demand decreases, price decreases, demand increases. But now let us look at the reverse. Say, what will be the impact of demand on the price? Possibilities. This is not demand theory, by the way. Just we are talking about impact of demand on the price, possibilities. What is the possibility? When the demand increases, what is the possibility? When the demand increases, then the sellers will definitely have an increased price, naturally, because there is a lot of demand for that product. Sellers are confident that they can sell more number of units, so they will increase the price when the demand increases. And when the demand decreases, then the prices also they have to reduce. So this is not actually from the consumer point of view, from the seller point of view. When the demand increases, the sellers also will increase their price of the products. When the demand decreases in general, the prices will be decreasing. So here in this question, what was asked is, demand for computers has increased. So naturally the price of the computers also might increase, and the number of computers bought will anyway increase because the demand is more. So D, Delhi would be better answer for question number 65. The correct answer for it is D. Then question number 66. When the total demand for a commodity whose price has fallen increases, why does it happen? When the total demand for a commodity whose price has fallen, so price has fallen, because of which what has increased? Total demand for a commodity has increased. Why that happens? That's what is price effect, right? So direct question this also. That is the price effect, not because of income, not because of substitution, not because of complementary. Because of price only the demand has increased. Why? Because the price has fallen. That is called price effect. So answer is direct answer D, Delhi once again. Then 67th question, the general question once again this also. With the fall in the price of a commodity, what happens? When the prices of the commodities fall, the consumer's real income increases. This real income means the disposable income increases. In other words, purchasing power increases. The income may not increase. Earlier, let us say a person is having 1000 rupees income, and he could purchase say 10 kilos of rice with that 1000 rupees, and 100 rupees was the per kg price of the rice, just for understanding purposes. So what happens here, if there is a fall in the price of the commodity, now let us say the price of the rice is only 50 rupees. He can buy now more number of kilos, 20 kilos he can buy, but he doesn't need that much. So what happens? Because of that, he may still spend only 500, 600 rupees on rice. The remaining 400 rupees he can spend on any other things. Means the consumer's real income has actually increased. Disposable income, what he can spend, the purchasing power of the consumer has increased. When that happens, when there is a fall in the price of a commodity, that's what happens. So A is the correct answer for it. Whenever the fall in the price of the commodity happens, the consumer's real income increases. When the increases in the price happen, the consumer's real incomes decrease. That's what we call inflation. We'll come to that later in the macroeconomics. But this is definitely related to microeconomics only. Price and income, how they are related with each other is the question. When the price is falling, then the real income of the, we are not talking income here, real income. Real income means purchasing power. So real income is more if the prices of the commodities are falling, because now he can purchase more commodities than earlier. That's what the purchasing power means all about. So 67th question answer would be A. Then 68th question, with an increase in the price of diamond, the quantity demanded also increases. Why is that? Because it is a conspicuous commodity, which is an exception to the law of demand. So 68th question answer would be C. Direct question once again. It's a Veblen goods, which are conspicuous or luxury goods, or you can say even snob effect they create, and all these are same. What happens there is, though the price of them increases, still the demand will also increase. If that happens, that is the nature of the goods is Veblen goods or conspicuous goods. Then an example of a good that exhibits a direct price demand relationship. Direct price demand relationship means price increases, demand increases, price decreases, demand decreases. So that is the 69th question. What is the nature of the good? So that also we can say a given goods, because that is also an exception, right, to the law of demand. When the price increases, demand increases. Price decreases, demand decreases. That those are called given goods or inferior goods, we can call them. Though there is a small difference, we don't need that. Given goods, we can call them. Definitely they are not complementary, because we are talking about only one commodity. Substitute also doesn't matter because it is one commodity. So both, all the options like complementary and substitute, both are useless options. Only given goods is the correct option, since it is also an exception to the law of demand. We know that there are many exceptions to the law of demand. One of them is this conspicuous goods, another one is given goods. That's what happens in case of given goods. Next, question number 70. In economics, when the demand for a commodity increases with a fall in its price, so price and demand are used here. So ideally quantity demanded should be used now here, agree? But what we can do, that's what they have used. We should know that. That is the usage. Whatever they use, we have to accept it, no option. So when the quantity demanded increases with a fall in its price, the relation is important here, not the names only. So price and demand means we are talking about quantity demanded. We are talking about law of demand. What can we call that? So quantity demanded increases, what can we call that? Can we call that increase in demand, decrease in demand, contraction of demand? No, we can call that expansion of demand. That is question number 70. Correct option will be B, Bombay. That is expansion of demand when the quantity demanded increases due to a fall in price particularly, right? That is question number 70. That is also related to demand, and I think that will be generally enough at this point of time, because most of the other questions are related to supply and other unit of consumer behavior. Maybe one or two questions somewhere hidden in the remaining questions also related to demand. We can definitely discuss them later also after the completion of the entire chapter. But as far as the topic of demand is concerned, this unit 1 of chapter 2, all the topics what we discussed earlier in the theoretical manner, we have applied them in solving the MCQs. These have to be practiced well. You need to do them again and again, understand them most importantly, not just ABCD. It is not about ABCDs. It is about understanding why one is the correct answer and why all the three are wrong answers. Then we say we learn. That's what is learning process for MCQs. So practice these things well, and we will continue with the next topic in the next class. Till that time, take care. Thank you very much.